Hello, friends, followers, and fellow realtors. Welcome to the Waves podcast created by the Highland Lakes Association of Realtors. We designed this podcast for realtors to help innovate, educate, and elevate their real estate practice, one ripple at a time. Our goal is to help navigate the waves of the industry and dive into local trends, topics, and beyond by interviewing experts that add value to our mission. Think of us as your proverbial life jacket to keep you afloat in these crazy times. We hope to make a splash in your day.
Thank you for joining us here at the Waves podcast. I am Jody Lynn Robinson. I am the GA committee chair, as well as on the board of directors here at Highland Lakes Association of Realtors. This is Matt Lipina, my guest, who is a Texas REALTORS Field Rep, and he's going to go over all kinds of questions with us today.
Thank you for having me, Jody Lynn.
Of course.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, we're glad you're here. So can you explain to us what a field rep does?
That's a really good question. I've been in the role about a year and a half, almost 2 years, and I feel like I'm still trying to figure it out. We're kind of a Google, I would say, of Texas realtors. We look at ourselves as not only serving the 160,000 members statewide, but also all of the local realtor associations. And what that means can be any question a member or a local board has. They come to us and either I have the answer or I help them find the answer. Okay. And so there are 6 of us across the state. We have someone in North Texas, South Texas, West, East, and then the Houston area. Okay. And so we cover a lot of ground. I myself live just outside of Austin. I cover an area around 2 hours around Austin every way. So as far north as Waco, as far south as Kerrville, as far east as College Station, and as far west as Brownwood.
Dang, that's a pretty good area.
It is.
Wow.
It is. It keeps me really busy. And so we serve on the government affairs team at Texas Realtors, and we are busy year-round. Especially right now, going into our next legislative session, about to start in January, and during election season as well is really when we're at our busiest. Helping local boards get out to vote, find candidates to support, and then during the legislative session, myself and other members of our team, we read every bill that is filed.
Yeah, I know.
And I like to joke it makes for a lot of really good late night reading when I can't fall asleep. It's very dry, but we read each bill and really just try to analyze its impact on the real estate industry, property owners, and figure out if that's something we need to focus on a little more each session, or if it's something that we just kind of need to monitor. So that is sort of our role in a nutshell. It changes all the time. We're sort of Swiss Army knives. Anything and everything that someone needs, we're kind of here for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything that realtors should be paying attention to in the upcoming election that you just can think of off the top of your head?
There's a lot of, statewide, there's a lot of really important House and Senate races that are going on. Luckily, at the local level, I know in this area, your state representative, Ellen Troxclair, is a good friend of the realtors. She's running again. TREPAC, I know, supports her, and we have a great relationship with her. So definitely getting out to vote and supporting Ellen is a huge priority and would be great. There is a U.S. Senate election going on between our current state senator, Ted Cruz, and U.S. House Representative Colin Allred from the Dallas area. That election is getting closer by the week, by the day.
So I hear, yeah.
And so definitely another one to get out and vote for.
What drove you into the GA political field, the government affairs?
For me, it really started in college. I was a political science, economics major in college, and I had the unique opportunity while I was there to intern and spend a semester out in Washington, D.C., which is where I really got bit by the political bug, working for my own hometown member of Congress. And really was a great experience, just kind of being at the heart of everything and seeing how the sausage is made, so to speak. And And so after college, I moved out to DC, and the rest is sort of history from there.
Oh, okay. So what do you focus on, or what drove you to focus on the real estate sector of advocacy?
I have always had an immense respect for small business owners and just their drive to provide for their families and do whatever it takes. My wife's family has a small business that's family ran, and I know firsthand just how, you go to work 7 days a week and there is no days off.
Yeah.
And I've always just had an immense respect for that and that drive that realtors have across the state to provide for their family and do what they love and having that freedom. And so for me, having the opportunity to help shape legislation, help shape regulation that makes it easier for y'all to do your jobs is extremely, extremely rewarding.
Yeah. Are there any resources the public can access or realtors can share with their clients about these topics, about HOAs, short-term rentals, property taxes, which is a huge deal for everyone?
Yeah.
Housing affordability, another major thing. And apparently squatters is becoming a really big thing.
It is a big thing. I mentioned the legislative session starting soon. January 14th is when the 89th state legislature officially convenes. When they do, as of right now, we'll have at least 32 new members of the state legislature. And so when that happens, with so many new members, we really hit the ground running now to reach out to them and start building those relationships with them and their staff, and just making sure that they know us and our issues and what we're focused on, and continuing that dialogue. There's a number of different issues, but what we do before every legislative session starts is we ask our members what they're focused on and what they're seeing in their business. So we send out a survey statewide to all of our members asking what public policies do you think we should be focusing on and lobbying on this coming session? So we did that in July. We got 1,400 responses back from that survey.
Wow.
And what we do once we get those responses is we have 4 public policy committees at Texas Realtors that are all member driven. There's about 25 members on each committee. Those committees are business issues, land use, infrastructure, and taxation. And
A
lot to cover and a very wide net, so to speak. And so once we get those surveys back, those policy committees have been meeting for the last 6 months talking about issues going on in the state. Again, they're all member driven, so it's realtors like yourself coming and saying, this is what I'm dealing with in my business. And then we take their feedback along with the survey feedback and we say, okay, is there anything we're missing? Is there anything we should, not focus on? And then we put out a policy document every year that has around a little over 30 issues in it that sort of explains the issue from a 5,000 foot perspective, the issue for how it impacts realtors, and then what our stance is on it at Texas Realtors. So we are in the process of finalizing that document. It will be available later on this year, likely end of November, December. And it's really sort of our key document that we share with members, but also legislators to say this is what we're focused on.
Okay. With all that in mind, so the new legislatures, the new things that are going on, how important is it for us as realtors to show up at Realtor Capital Day?
Oh my gosh, it is. Realtor Capital Day, first off, is so much fun.
It is fun.
I had my first one last year, and it is a whirlwind experience.
Yeah. Yes,
Thousands of realtors go to the Capitol on the same day. It is so crazy. We have members of the legislature, but also mainly their staff and other outside lobby groups will call us and say, when is your realtor day at the Capitol? So we know what day not to be there. Because it is thousands of realtors taking over the Capitol. And it is just a great day for us, for the members, and really for you all to get to know your state rep or state senator, and for them to hear from you directly how this issue is impacting you and your business. They hear from our lobby team daily, weekly. They know us and what we're focused on, but what really hits home and what really helps us drive these issues and make that change is if I'm a state representative and you come to my office and talk to me about how property taxes are really hurting your client's ability to buy a home, and how they need relief from that. Those stories that they can picture someone in their backyard in their own district dealing with this is really what helps drive that. So
for sure,
that day is March 26th next year. We already have it scheduled. People are already looking to avoid the Capitol that day. And it is just a great day and just a ton of fun.
Yeah, it is a great day. Last year when I went, I realized there's certain things, like we were voting on the school vouchers and things like that. It affects every realtor because people are moving sometimes to certain districts that need to know. And I really didn't understand, because all of us, just as people in general, but especially as realtors, sometimes we see one point of view. It's hard to see another point of view. So it was awesome to get to talk to some of those people that are integral in making these decisions and understand their point of view.
Yeah.
So it was good.
Yeah. And a lot of times we tell members too, because that's such a crazy day, it's in the middle of legislative session. So we'll have state representatives, state senators in the middle of a meeting get pulled out and they have to go take votes on the floor. And a lot of times you'll end up meeting with a chief of staff or a legislative director. That's almost better in some cases, because these are the folks that are working. Let me back up. A state rep, a state senator, they have such a wide area to cover. Yeah. And it is impossible for one person to know everything that goes on in their district.
Yeah.
And so at any given minute, they are thinking of 20 different things in their mind. But when you meet with their chief of staff or their legislative director, these are the folks that are really helping write these policies and are really in the members' ear and talking to them and figuring out, okay, what is it that our constituents want us to focus on? So I always tell people, don't be discouraged if your member only is able to say hi and then they have to run out the door.
Yeah.
Because those chief of staffs, those legislative directors are just as important in building relationships with them.
For sure. Yeah, that happened to us a couple times. Yeah. We expected it though. What should the public and realtors do to help?
First and foremost, get out and vote. Election day is November 5th. This week and actually yesterday was National Voter Registration Day. So if you haven't checked your voter registration status, please go do that. That is the first and foremost thing. And then really just working with your local board, supporting TREPAC, and getting involved at the local level, in your city council, in your county commissioner, paying attention to those meetings, getting on a GA committee. Those are the things that I think are most impactful. I always like to tell people, you have, as realtors, as a city and as realtors, a lot of what your work is relating to zoning and zoning laws.
Yeah.
Each city has their own planning and zoning commissions, and those commissions and the people that serve on them, they're completely voluntary positions. They're not elected.
Yeah.
They're all volunteer based. And so if you as a realtor have the opportunity to serve on your city's planning and zoning commission, economic development, anything at the city level where you can get involved and have a say in the process, do so, because it's tremendously useful for you as a realtor, but also just you as a member of the community to keep up to date with what's going on.
Yeah. So I'm going to admit this. I hate to admit this, but when I had been a realtor for several years and did not understand exactly what TREPAC did. Can you kind of just, give a synopsis of all the stuff that TREPAC entails and why we should actually give our money? We should.
Yeah. So our government affairs at Texas Realtors, we like to say it's like a chair, all multiple legs of the chair. We have our legislative team that does all of our work in the Capitol. We have our grassroots and our communications, and we have TREPAC. And without TREPAC, without any one of these legs on the chair, the whole thing falls over. And getting with TREPAC, the whole purpose is getting realtor supported candidates elected to office and having more folks in public office that support our priorities. And so running for office is increasingly more expensive at every single level of politics. And so we at Texas Realtors and TREPAC work and really try to get support from you all as members to help get those folks elected. Without TREPAC, those relationships wouldn't be what they are today. If I am running for public office in Texas, having a check from TREPAC early on in my campaign, you're already forming that relationship before someone ever even takes office.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And so really it is just as fundamental as any of the other legs on our chair, and is something that I can't even begin to just elaborate on how important it is for us.
It took me a little while to understand how important it was. So Matt, what is going on with property taxes that y'all are dealing with right now, that we're all dealing with right now?
It's a great question. So talking about property taxes, it's always something we love talking about. You remember last session, we had our state property tax reform, the largest property tax reform bill ever passed at the state level. And so we're finally starting to see the effects of that, and homeowners and buyers are starting to see that. I know I just got a check in the mail from my mortgage company.
Nice.
I was excited to finally get money back from my mortgage company for a change. And so it's something that the legislature has already said next session they want to focus on. And the lieutenant governor has asked state senators over the past couple months to really look at this idea of what would it cost if we didn't have any property taxes in Texas, if we eliminated them completely. And so I always like to start the conversation with elimination, but only to a certain extent. By authority and by state statute, the legislature only can govern, when relating to property taxes, school district property taxes. If you look at your property tax statement, you'll have your city, your county, you'll have other local taxing entities, and then you'll have your school district. Your school district property taxes make up the majority of what you pay as a property owner. In those school district property taxes, you have what's called maintenance and operations, or M&O taxes. And those are what the governor, the lieutenant governor, have already said they want to maybe look at and trying to find ways for the state to pay those down. So homeowners pay less. Last week, or I believe 2 weeks ago, the state legislature met and they said, in order to if we completely eliminated school district property taxes statewide, it would cost around $35 to $40 billion. And with our state's budget being 150 to 175 billion every 2 years, that is a significant chunk of money that the state would then be having to pay. And so right now we're still working on figuring out what that actually looks like. But what we do know is there's going to be something in terms of whether that's increasing homestead exemptions, whether that's relating to an appraisal cap issue. All these topics that came up last session are all ideas that the legislature could look at. One thing I always like to talk about with this, because that is such a large chunk of money, it has to come from somewhere. And we talk a lot at the state level about finding more ways for the state to raise revenue. You have ideas talked about, such as casinos. You have legislation relating to marijuana, all things that could be taxed at the state level. The issue becomes, if you were to tax those, the amount of tax revenue raised is such a small drop in the bucket of that $40 to $35 billion. There's still a significant amount left over that we have to come up as a way to fund. So it is definitely conversations that we are having right now, and the legislature is going to be focused on this coming session.
Okay. So along with property taxes, which is what our clients pay attention to when they're buying a home, we also have to think about property insurance. I have actually had a client, because of property insurance, be priced out of the home. So my question to you is, what's going on there? How are consumers being helped as far as property insurance, if you know that? And just what's going on with that all the way around?
Yeah, well, that is something that unfortunately we are seeing across the state. It's something that the state legislature has said that we want to do something about this because they're hearing from their constituents that this is an issue. Texas has the highest average property insurance cost of any state in the country, and it's almost double the national average. But with those rising property insurance costs, it's something that when we talk about housing affordability, it's one of the first things that come up. So we know already going into this session that property insurance is going to be an issue that we'll be heavily lobbying on at the state level. We're looking right now at a couple of different options. The first is finding ways to give property owners a little more transparency and protection from those rising property insurance rates. If your premiums jump dramatically, getting a little more transparency about why that happened and protections to prevent that from happening in the first place.
That would be nice, yeah.
It would be, and it would go a long ways. But another thing we're doing is, or look to do, is if you're a homeowner and you file a property insurance claim and it's a large claim and it's something that you had no control over, say you had a tornado or hurricane, and it damaged some of your property or a piece of your property, and you file a claim. What we're hoping to be able to do at the state level is put some protections in place to where you as a homeowner cannot be dropped from coverage simply because you filed that claim.
Oh.
That was completely out of your control.
Yeah.
So that's just a couple things that we're looking to do and having those conversations.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So on deed and lease fraud, there for a while, and I'm not sure if this, has anything to pertain with what you're going to say, but there for a while, there were a lot of fraud as far as sellers coming in and asking realtors to sell a property that they didn't actually own.
Yeah.
And then some of them went to close. It actually happened to me where he wanted me to list some lots, but so many questions started coming up that I was like, yeah, this cannot be correct. And what's going on with y'all as far as deed and lease fraud?
Yeah. Well, again, unfortunately, that is not a story that is unique to you. It's something happening across the state, and being newer to the real estate industry myself, when I first heard about it, I was taken back. I didn't even know that this was something that happened, let alone continues to happen. So it's something that the state legislature is hearing from their constituents on, and is one of those priority issues that we'll be lobbying on this session. One of the things that our policy committee met with and discussed is several counties across the state right now have in place a system to where you as a property owner can be notified if a deed or a title document for your property is filed.
Oh, that would be amazing.
They're completely free. The issue is right now it's sort of piecemealed county by county of who offers these services and who doesn't. And so one of the things we're looking to do at the state level is try to create a statewide system. Similar thing to where if a title or a deed is filed on your home, as a property owner, you're notified of that, and really hopefully giving those property owners some time to catch that before it happens, along with just increasing penalties for real estate scams as a whole. So many of these folks don't even live in Texas. And it's become a whole different checklist that you as realtors have to check of, is this something that seems fraudulent? Have I met this person in person?
Yeah.
Will they meet on Zoom?
Yeah.
All these different things that can kind of raise red flags in your mind. So definitely something we're looking to address.
Yeah. It's definitely a learning curve. It's a learn as you go kind of situation for realtors. The other crazy thing that's going on, we've got so many crazy things going on in real estate, is squatters. I was going to list a home, and the lady had squatters in her house, and she just could not get them out. By the time she got them out, they had destroyed her home. I mean, like, she had to completely redo the inside of the house, so it did not get listed. But what's your thought process on the squatters?
Yeah. That is an issue that it's been in the real estate industry for years. It's been going on, but it's only recently started to gain some national attention, and with that, state attention as well from our state leaders. And so I mentioned how the lieutenant governor and the governor and the speaker are all focused on property taxes. Squatters is another one of those issues that they said we need to do something about this because we can't have that happening here in Texas. And so unfortunately, squatters, as it's become more prevalent, they become increasingly savvy in how they do this.
Yeah, for sure.
And finding homes, when they're squatting in a home and a police officer comes to that home, they know exactly what to say and what not to say. And to our law enforcement's credit, they're in a tricky situation as well.
Oh, yeah.
And so we're doing the best we can right now, but we're trying to find ways at the state level to do something about this. And so the Senate Local Government Committee took this issue up in May, and they heard from property owners in Houston. One of our realtor members in Houston went and testified on this issue. They heard a couple horror stories from some folks in San Antonio about this issue. And we've been hearing from our members, obviously, about it as well.
Right.
It's to the point where some of our members who are property managers, when they go to a home, they carry with them because they don't know what they're going to find when they go into that vacant home.
Yeah. It is scary.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And so it's a safety issue. It's a legal issue. And it's something that we're definitely looking to do. One of the things that we're looking to do is just further define what a squatter is and increase those penalties for doing that, and giving law enforcement in those situations a little more guidance about what the proper protocol is. And so if law enforcement comes to a home, their hands aren't tied, and they have something that they can do. We at Texas Realtors have a firm belief in property rights, and so with that, we believe that homeowners should have options when they encounter a squatter in their home. And so it's something that we've already been talking with members at the legislature about, and we'll continue to do so.
It's being talked about all over the news. Yeah. I know it's a major thing that's coming up with legislation. It is important to everyone. What about housing affordability?
Yeah. It is absolutely something that we talk about weekly, daily at Texas Realtors. And at the state level, they do as well. Recently, our state comptroller, Glenn Hager, came out with a study about housing affordability in Texas. And what he found, there's a number of factors that go into housing affordability and what's impacting it. Property insurance rates are one of them. But he said the main thing is the supply shortage that we're seeing at the state level. Because Texas is so wonderful, we have people moving to Texas every year. We bring in a population the size of Corpus Christi every single year.
Yeah, it's crazy, mind-blowing.
And with that, we have to find places for these folks to live. And so the comptroller said last year we were short about 306,000 homes in Texas. And so the question then becomes, how do we build these homes? And how do we do so in a efficient way, in a timely way, and in a cost-effective way? And so that is a question we at Texas Realtors and the legislature looked at last session. We passed a bill that would allow, during the development process, if a builder submits permits for review by a local taxing entity, after a certain amount of time has passed, a third party can review those, basically, to help expedite that process. The longer it takes for a builder to get those permits, it increases the cost of housing.
True.
And so it's one of the ways last session we tackled that. But we're seeing cities across the state try all sorts of things, and the thing I like to point to right now is it's a lot of the issue is local zoning laws. You have minimum lot size requirements, minimum setback requirements, parking requirements.
Yeah. And permits are expensive for builders.
They are. And so you have all these different hindrances to increasing density in areas. And at the end of the day, we have to build these homes. Whether that's the granny flat in my backyard where my grandmother can live, or that's a duplex down the street.
Yeah.
We have to find ways for these builders to come in and build more homes for folks to live. And so that is our focus along with all of these things, but housing supply is probably the biggest contributor to that.
Yeah. I think for me, in regards to housing supply and needing more housing supply, we also need more water. So I'm really hoping that is being thought of as well.
It is. Water infrastructure as a whole continues to be something at the state level that we focus on, the legislature focus on. It's a priority for us, water especially. And we, listening to hearings these last couple of weeks, the legislature is gearing up to probably do their biggest water package ever to really try to get at the heart of this issue.
Nice.
Right now at the state level, it's estimated that in 50 years we'll be short around 6.8 million acres of water. I mentioned how we have a Corpus Christi-sized population moving to the state every year.
Yeah.
That is a continuous drain on our water resources, and so the state legislature is getting creative in how they're tackling this. One way that they're doing this is desalination plants, taking that salt water and turning it into drinking water. That is happening. It's extremely costly to do so.
Yes. Yeah.
And so along with that, state legislature is looking at different ways to create new water avenues and reservoirs and connect to different water streams to bring water from other states into Texas.
Oh, wow. That would be
but
amazing.
Water, the energy grid, they're all issues,
Yeah.
are probably the two most important issues infrastructure-wise that the legislature is going to look at this year.
Okay, so once everything goes, y'all identify a bill that either you need to endorse and help or make it go away because it's not good for property owners in the state of Texas. What exactly does Texas Realtors and the lobbyists that work for us do?
That's a great question. I always like to tell people the legislative process at the state level is extremely complicated. There's about 15 steps it takes from the second a bill is filed to when it's signed into law by the governor. There's about 15 steps there to where a bill can be changed, can be sent to committee, can be withdrawn. And so each of those steps represents an opportunity for us to have a conversation with state legislators and either change a bill or get a bill killed. We always like to talk about some of our biggest legislative victories are bills that you don't even hear about or ideas you don't hear about because we were able to have those bills pulled.
Gotcha.
Last legislative session, our lobby team, there were 8,153 total bills and resolutions filed at the state capitol.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
And everyone is reading through these?
We read each of them. There's about a team of anywhere from like 15 to 20 of us that we kind of split it up by issue area, and we all read each bill. And so of those bills, we tracked, and so we identified bills that are relevant to our industry, 1,848 of them. Of those bills that we tracked, we supported 295 of them, and 53 passed. Around 18% of the bills that we supported passed. And
those are crazy different numbers.
They are. But if you think about all the steps in the process I mentioned, on average, only about 1 in every 7 or 6 bills that ever gets filed is signed into law, about 15%. So we're above average in terms of when we identify something as important and we really push to get it passed. We're more times than not successful in doing so. On the flip side of that, last session we opposed 155 different pieces of legislation. If you look at the last 6 legislative sessions as a whole, the last bill that Texas Realtors opposed that was signed into law was in 2017. Last session, not a single bill that we came out against became law. And when I think about that, it really speaks to our effectiveness in the Capitol, but more so, in my mind, the legislature's respect for you all as realtors and what you do. It's always a very fine balance of knowing which fights to pick, and not making enemies. And so the way we do that is sticking to our realtor priority issues. It is very easy in the state legislature and public policy to get involved in many different conversations. We can talk about casinos or marijuana legislation, but those aren't at our core realtor issues. And so if I come to you today and ask you about property taxes, and then tomorrow I come to you and I'm talking about regulations on automobiles, as a state legislature, you're kind of confused about what we stand for and what our priorities are. And so we do a very great job of knowing when to go and have those conversations and knowing when to stay out of those conversations. And if you opposing a bill today, tomorrow you could be our biggest advocate on a bill. And so those relationships are key to everything we do at the state level. And so not making enemies amongst the state legislature is another reason we're so effective. But I think first and foremost, it comes down to legislators understand the impact you all have on local economies as realtors and the importance real estate has on a local economy. And so when we go and we bring thousands of realtors to the Capitol on one day, they listen and they want to hear what we have to say.
Are the lobbyists for Texas Realtors one of the largest lobbyist groups in Texas? And we solely focus on property owners, correct? Like property rights, property information, realtors, etc. But it all revolves around real estate.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. For us, and like I said, that can look like a number of different things because real estate is impacted by a lot.
Correct.
Infrastructure, property rights, property taxes. But at its core, it's anything relating to property owners, property buyers or sellers, property managers, commercial real estate. Anything relating to real estate is really at its core what we're focused on. And so, like I said, that casts a wide net, but we do a really great job of trying to pull that net in as much as possible.
That's good. It's definitely a good idea to be part of Texas Realtors and have them fighting for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything you want to plug or share before we wrap up?
We have a couple different things. We have a new staff member on our government affairs team. Her name is Leah Mount. She used to work for the governor, and she is wonderful and is handling all of our marketing and communications as relating to advocacy. And we have a new newsletter. It is called the Recap Newsletter, RECAP.
Oh, okay.
It goes out once or twice a month and really summarizes everything we do at advocacy at Texas Realtors. It is entirely focused on government affairs, and folks can go on our website and sign up for that at texasrealestate.com/recap.
Okay.
It's a phenomenal newsletter, like I said, and really helps capture everything that we do. The other things I would mention, you mentioned, and with the election day coming up, Texas Realtors has a website, texasrealtorsupport.com. Mm-hmm. You can go on that website, plug in your address, and find all of the TREPAC supported candidates that you'll see on the ballot. So you know, okay, before I go, who supports realtor issues and who are realtor-friendly candidates. Mm-hmm. You can't take it on your phone with you into the ballot box, but you are able to print it out and bring it with you into the ballot box. You just can't have it on your phone.
Yeah.
So definitely would encourage folks to check out those two things. And then the last thing, just with everything going on in our industry right now, always keeping up to date with texasrealestate.com/lawsuit and keeping up to date with all the form changes and everything with that.
Lots of form changes.
Lots of form changes. And our
form changes.
Our forms task force is hard at work and has been continuously working hard to keep up with all that. So I always tell folks to watch that website every day.
Good. Yeah. All right. Matt, thank you again for coming on the podcast, The Waves, for us and answering all of our questions. We certainly appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Don't forget to like, subscribe, or follow us so that you always get the updates that are coming to you.